So, Ali, how is this teaching sequence that you've done with Year 7 LOTE different from how you've taught this same thing before?
It started out the same in that it was going to be a research task, and the focus was going to be on the students extracting information and putting it in their own words. What I found when we started or have done these tasks more recently is that the kids don't actually know how to condense lots of information into their own words, and seeing what they're doing in other subjects in our faculty as well. So in conjunction with yourself, Michelle, we came up with a bit of a plan. Different in that it was a team teaching exercise, which I've actually found really invaluable. Coming up with a booklet that the kids used, and giving very explicit teaching, basically explicitly teaching what was going to happen. And it's the explicitness, I think, that was the most different element of this particular activity, and the fact that it was team taught.
So what prompted the change?
Recognising that students hadn't been explicitly taught researching skills, and that as a high school teacher we assume that the primary school's done it, but their activities are quite different to ours, and a lot of students just did not know where to start and how to condense loads of information into just the key points. So that was kind of where it started from, and then the whole process just evolved from there. I didn't really have a specific end point, and probably the biggest difference was that with this task we didn't tell the students what their final presentation was going to be. So at each step the students were just concentrating on that step. So if it was researching on the internet, it would be collecting information that they were reading and putting it onto their booklet. And then the next step was, you had to write a speech. And the only reason I went with that was because I kind of went, okay, I've got this great information, what are we going to do with it? And one of the things that the kids were all least comfortable with was expanding out to a speech. So that's how that sort of evolved. And then when I was thinking, this is going to take ages to listen to all these speeches, and while I was talking to the students in class, we started talking about how you would go about doing a speech, and then the issue of palm cards came up, and then we started exploring that, and then I realised that students really didn't understand the whole concept behind palm cards, and they'd been writing their entire speech on there. And then I saw a Year 11 class that were doing exactly that. So it then sort of took on a different angle, and we went then with how you then refine from big picture to your summarised notes, to elaborating out to a speech, to bringing back down into your small palm cards. And then the final project was the kids actually recording their speech, so that we, I guess, didn't lose any more class time in terms of the assessment side of it, but also can move toward kids doing their own self-evaluation as well. So yeah, quite different to anything I've done before.
So what do you think you've learnt from teaching this particular sequence?
I've learnt that it's really important that if you have an expectation, that you need to make sure that you've been very explicit in your instructions leading up to it. We can sit there and say, I want you to hand in an assignment on, a country, but unless you are very explicit with what you want, there's a lot of interpretation, and a lot of, particularly Year 7 students, coming from a primary school where their teaching is often very explicit, they're very lost. So I found that it's really important to be explicit with your expectations, and also realistic in terms of a time frame. This did take a bit longer than what I'd anticipated, but I still think it was very useful. And it was about the process, not the final video recording. It was the process that took place, and hopefully they've learned something that they'll be able to use in the next 6 years. You
were quite particular about them doing the work in class.
Yep.
And there were some clear reasons for that. Can you just articulate those?
In the past, I've noticed when students have had assignments and they present a PowerPoint or something on those lines, a lot of the information comes in, it's just cut and paste off the internet. Maybe not, there might be some assistance from other family members in getting that task done, but also I can't actually see what the kids are doing. I don't understand what is going through their head. I can't see what they're having trouble with or what they're doing really well. So it actually assists me in the long run with assessing the task, because I can actually see, does this student actually show good research techniques? Some students started looking at their French personality and realised there wasn't much information. Then they came back and, I have to change my person. And then they were really worried that they were getting behind. But that just showed me that they were using their research skills, because they had actually done some investigation, realised, okay, maybe I can't get enough information here and I need to change. So that self-regulation is just as important as, the finished product.
Do you think research is a set and forget task like it often is seen to be in secondary school?
I think it has been, and I know I've certainly been guilty of that. This has changed the way that I would implement research with all of my year groups. I had the flexibility with Year 7 and because of the nature of our program and the timing, that I had a little bit more lesson time to be able to allocate to it. I think if I implemented this with a stage 5 class, it would need to be a little bit more well structured in terms of the time frame, because it would need to, there's just too much content to get through. But my plan is that if I start with my Year 7s, that over the years as they progress through, the bare bones are there, and then they've just got to keep building from that. So it's a work in progress.
So if you're going to do the unit again, is there anything that you do differently?
Probably the booklet would be the first thing, because that's where the kids start. And I think maybe even showing them ahead of time the process we went through this year, so that they understood perhaps where we're going. Might be different, but not too much I'd change. I'm really happy with how things have gone.